Would have preferred a Rock Slide or a Black Widow, but Korg's better than Brickin. You use Sersi on the Hulk so you get Aeroshims. Once Aeroshin is in the game, yes, but he's not currently in the game.
I am Iron Man.
I could also do this. Are there any 4s that are meaningfully disruptive for us here? We could roll Storm. We could roll like Super Scroll. Iron Lads for Rock Slide's not bad. We can hit Rhino. Should Demon second in case we roll Killmonger. That's a good call out.
Wind.
Yeah! What? What a Marvel Snap card, gamers! What a Marvel Snap card, gamers! I'm gonna stay knowing we should probably leave. Yep. Typical Boomer Snapper. Alright, seriously, RNG, babe. Love, appreciate you. What a lovely gal. See, chat, this is, you just gotta like have faith in your cards and know that they are gonna deliver the game to you on a golden platter. Sersi transforms under X, chat. X the right. X the right. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah! Come on! Sersi! Get him! Get him! Get him! Poppy! Poppy! Oh, chat. Whoo, doggy. Oh, baby. If this is wrong, then I have no desire to be right. Marvel Snap's latest card release in Sersi is here, a 5/7 whose on reveal takes all of your cards at her locations and increases them to a random different card that costs +1. If I'm being honest, I expected Sersi to be fairly playable, especially inside of the Sentry Annihilus shells, but after my initial time spent playing with her, she honestly felt better than I was expecting her to in a variety of situations. I think the biggest thing that felt like a surprise to me after playing with this card is just how frequently Sersi felt better than Annihilus to play on the 5th turn of the game. Something that happens when you're playing against experienced Marvel Snap players is when they see cards like Sentry and Hood, they'll often start stacking up their right side lane, knowing that Annihilus is in your output range. They need to not let you kick that void across. This basically lets you juke them, like you saw in that Professor X clip at the start of this video, where they're expecting you to send these things across, and instead you upgrade them with Sersi into meaningful stat lines. This can really throw a wrench in the plans of something like Professor X or other things that your opponent is doing, because they'll fill with smaller cards, for example, and then suddenly Sersi turns your things into bigger numbers. Sersi obviously also excels with other cards like Debris that can clutter the board, or even locations that kick out things like Raptors or Ninjas that you would love to upgrade into bigger things. Well, it's obvious that Sersi is never giving you a guaranteed thing. You can also make educated percentage plays knowing the output range of the cards that you're upgrading at a given location. Like we saw in the clip at the start of this video when I had a 1 energy card and a 2 energy card at a Limbo location, we got fortunate and rolled Storm, but she was far from the only card that was going to be useful there. We also had Rhino at 3 energy that could get rid of Limbo, we had Scarlet Witch at 2 energy, and we had other 3 energy cards like Debris that could have cluttered up my opponent's board, creating a very beneficial position for us in that game overall. Being able to look at the board state and parse, okay, there's a number of beneficial things for Sersi to give me here, is definitely going to be a skill testing part of leveraging this card efficiently. Past the obvious Annihilus synergies, there's also obviously memey and sweet big things like the clip of Sersi into the Wong Mystique path, getting us 3/6 energy cards, including Living Tribunal to salvage a game that looked otherwise completely unwinnable. Overall, in terms of power level, I don't expect Sersi to break the metagame, but she does also feel like an incredibly playable card, like a lot of the other releases we've had recently. I would expect longer term, she likely has a permanent home inside of the Sentry Annihilus shells that we're going to review here in a minute, while also feeling like she fits into other memey and sweet things like Mr. Negative. By the early metrics on Untapped, the best performing Sersi shell is the Pixie Annihilus deck, of which I'm fond. She replaces Lady Deathstrike in this core, and I do think Sersi is a solid upgrade for it. In addition to turning the Sentry's Void into a 5 energy card, she also works quite well with the various 1 energy cards that Pixie wants, as well as Pixie herself, since we don't care about their bodies once we get their on reveal effect. Red Guardian in the 3 energy slot is also a card that's lovely to upgrade after you get his effect to clear something away on the board. As far as must-have higher series cards for this deck go, its namesakes, Pixie and Annihilus, as well as now Sersi, I think are definitely must-have tools for it to be competitive. Jeff the Baby Landshark, I'm not even sure if it's optimal post-Sersi. Something with an on-reveal effect like White Widow or Scorpion could be better suited for that slot. Nico Minaru could be another 1 energy card that you can shuffle with Pixie or upgrade with Sersi. Red Hulk can shift into another big 6 energy play like Magneto or Doctor Doom, and then Red Guardian and Mobius can be other good 3 energy utility cards, ideally ones that you don't mind upgrading, such as Debris. The next top performing Sersi deck in the early untapped metrics is the Annihilus Mockingbird Death Shell that has a ton of synergistic packages that overlap cleanly with each other. Sersi is a wonderful addition to this deck because in addition to upgrading things like the Void and the Hood, you have extra bodies lying around from Squirrel Girl, you have Mysterio clones, all of these things that Sersi loves to turn into bigger, badder things. This deck list basically, you look at your opening hand and you figure out which one of your cost reducers you're going to slam down a big number, and you're off to the races. As far as must-have cards go for this deck, unfortunately, there's not a lot of clean substitutions for the higher series things. Annihilus, Mockingbird, and X-23 all provide unique, powerful effects, with Nico Minaru probably being the one odd card out that you could substitute for a different 1 energy card that Killmonger can clean out for you. Moving on to my own personal Sersi brews, one that I enjoyed today with Annihilus the most was this Dark Hawk shell. She really felt like she added another powerful thing to do to the top end of the curve in this deck that always kept our opponents on their toes. We could be slamming Annihilus, meaning that they fill up the right side of their board. We could be playing giant stats with Dark Hawk on the last turn of the game, or Sersi could be upgrading our 1s and 3s and Voids into bigger and better things, and we're going to overpower them with raw numbers. You had a little bit of Mockingbird into the mix thanks to our rocks and demons and other things, and this deck list really felt like it was hitting the opponents from a lot of powerful angles. White Widow stands out as the only easily replaceable card in this deck, being substituted out for something like Scorpion or their 2 energy card that you don't mind upgrading with Sersi consistently. As we move to coloring outside the lines a little bit, this negative Sersi deck is the one I had the most fun with on the first day. Its negative game plan is super sweet and fairly straightforward. The basic idea is you go Wong into Mystique, into make a giant Sage, into Taskmaster that giant Sage to have big stats in 2 lanes. Sersi definitely falls into a little bit of a backup plan who works quite well with a lot of the cards this deck is playing. When you're not negativing especially, you things like Ironheart, White Widow, Magic, Mr. Negative himself, and even White Tiger are all excellent weak bodies after their on-reveal effects happen that Sersi can upgrade into consistently better things. In my opinion, the only must-have higher series card in this core is Ravonna Renslayer, who makes your non-negative draws a lot more efficient while also letting you play Mr. Negative himself on turn 3. Sage can be replaced with something like Wolfsbane as another big on-reveal effect that you can Taskmaster, and White Widow's just a generically good 2-drop that you can always sub out for a different generically good cheap card. My final Sersi brew today is a ramp variation that I enjoyed on stream. Electro's always had a pretty big downside, restricting him to being played in decks that only have really expensive cards in it, but Sersi, alongside other 5 energy cards like Blink and Lady Deathstrike, now finally have us with a critical mass of cards that can take Electro off the table the turn after we accelerate with him. This allows us to have turns 5 and 6 to play out multiple cards, meaning while our deck does have a couple of powerful pieces of top end in Doctor Doom and Magneto, we can also play cheaper, more efficient things like Hood and Mysterio, and top end stuff like Mockingbird that can be cheap to really surprise our opponent with our output range at the end of the game. As far as higher series cards go, I do think Blink, Sersi, and Mockingbird are important for the power level of this deck, but things like Jeff, Nico Minaru, and Red Guardian can easily substitute it out for other 1, 2, and 3 energy cards that you can play out proactively, and ideally don't mind upgrading with Sersi in the later turns of the game. Overall, I'm having a blast with Sersi. She makes a ton of fantastic content moments like we featured at the start of this video. I would love to hear in the comments down below which Sersi decks you've been enjoying. And as always, if you enjoyed my breakdown on this topic, be sure to snap that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss my next piece of Snap content here many times per week.